What's going on? Welcome to the first episode of Becoming Creative. Becoming Creative. Get very familiar with the name. Get very familiar with what's going on here, because this community, this podcast, this whatever comes out of this is not only for me, but I want it to be for the people who are listening, who are watching this, and yeah, it's for all of us. It's like it's for all of us. And so, welcome to the first episode of Becoming Creative. I thought it would be valuable to kind of talk about, well, where did Becoming Creative come from? Like, what is this whole thing? Like, it may sound cool, it may look cool wherever you see it. What is it, Kim? What is it? The easiest way I can articulate it is kind of like Becoming Creative is really, it's really my own life testimony encompassed in this one word or in this one phrase. I'm becoming, plus sign, and I'm creative. And so, even in the midst of me also becoming creative, in the becoming, there's so many things. Like, I'm becoming happier with who I am. I'm becoming loved. I'm becoming self-aware. I'm becoming whole. I'm becoming a better friend. I'm becoming a better daughter, a better sister, a better leader, a better, yeah, everything. And so, like, the becoming side kind of falls in line. Then to get specific, yes, I am creative. And the creativity, like the Lord, and I don't want to sound deep. I really don't. I promise you I'm not trying to sound deep. But God showed me my creativity. God used my creativity to save me. Background information real quick. I'm going to make it really short. Growing up, my background was always me being an athlete. I played Division I basketball, played throughout the whole AAU circuit, like played all over the country, whatever. And for the most part, that was where a lot of my focus was. Like, how can I be the best athlete I can be? How can I get grades so I can go where I want to go? Like, that was the whole plan. I was going to be a professional basketball player and, you know, play overseas, play in the WNBA, wherever it kind of led me. And that was my plan. When I got to college, things got shaky because just where I was placed, I really just don't think I was where I was supposed to be as far as like the school that I went to and the program that I was playing within. And in being that program with that coach, unfortunately, it just kind of killed it killed basketball for me. Gave 1,000%, 100,000% into my basketball career in college, and I just was not being seen. I was not being heard. I was not being regarded. It was just a really toxic situation, and as a result, it caused me to then question my identity, like who I was. And so after a while, me realizing, you know what, I'm not playing here no more. I'm not playing basketball no more. Like, I'm good. When I got home, of course, it's not only basketball, but then my grades dip. Everything just kind of goes haywire. And as a result, I go home and, you know, things aren't good. You know, my mother's like, what's going on? Like, these grades are crazy. Like, I've never seen you have these kind of grades. What is going on? But at that time, I wasn't as expressive with my feelings and like what was actually happening with me. I can remember going to church though one day, and they were praying over the youth, and I can remember a minister talking to me while they were praying and saying, like, don't let anything steal your joy. And it like that statement broke me, because leading up to this, you know, no one knew about what was going on with me at school. No one knew about you know, how I wasn't doing well or whatever. I'd have a smile, laughs, we're kicking it and everything else, and everything looks fine on the outside, but no one knew. And so for her to say that to me in the midst of me showing that, I'm like, God, that's what's going on. And so in this whole situation, completely stole my joy. Completely stole my joy. And so definitely led me to go into a strong depressive season of my life, where again I'd show a smile and everything else when I'm around folk, and then when I'm home, I'm just in my room, locked away, isolated, and that's the extent of like what's going on. And I had to realize, like, okay, I got to figure out how to get out of this because I can't stay here. Of course, my thoughts are going completely negative and down a road where I'm like, no, we're definitely not doing that. Thought of suicide and just like, nah, we can't be here. And so tried to figure out what's next. And so ended up, at that time I was living in Pennsylvania with my mother. And I was like, you know what? I need to be able to get to Wednesday night services, midweek services and Bible studies. And you know what? I'm going to have to uproot myself and move to New York. And thankfully I had family here that welcomed me in at church. And I ended up starting to live with them to kind of be closer so I can get to these services that I felt like if I could just get to these services, I think it will pull me out of this. And being in Bible study and then being around other young people whom, you know, I just felt like it would help me instead of me being so isolated in Pennsylvania. But I do remember a night where I was just thinking about my life and I was like, you know, Lord, I'm out here tripping and I'm not making good decisions. And so, Lord, I'm going to try you out. I'm going to try your plan out and let's see if that works out. Literally. I think from there, that's when my life started to change a bit. I started to write more. I think there were just things at church calling for us to kind of do more things. And I guess I was just, they were just opportunities, honestly. And so in August of that year, I was asked to go to Africa. My first lady was like, Kim, you're going to Africa. Get me your passport and everything. I was like, I'm not trying to go to Africa. 1. 2, I don't even have any money. Like, I'm not about to go to Africa. And she was like, you're going to Africa, so whatever. So that August went to Africa, and that completely changed my life. That changed my whole perspective on what my life looks like and why I'm here. What are we doing? And so coming back from that trip, I felt a momentum happening from there. We started to do these this spoken word kind of service situation and felt myself writing a little bit more, and that was like creative. And one of the things that I thought about before I prayed that prayer of coming back to God, I remember a time I was sitting in my room and I was like, you know, outside of basketball, which seemed to be the best thing that I could produce, what is there to Kim? Like, I couldn't understand that, like, I had other gifts or I had other talents or that there was anything else to me, because all I saw was the one thing that I kind of like shaped my identity around. Like, she was strong. She was, oh yeah, like Kim going to the league, you know, Kim is out here playing across the nation. People, like, that was what people knew of me. And to not have that now was like, well, what do you do now? Like, and for me, I didn't have anything to say to that. I didn't have any answer to that. And so, you know, to kind of fast forward to going to Africa and everything else, I think that was the beginning of a time where God started to show me, okay, there's these other things you got here that I put in you. Let me show you. Let me teach you. And so even going on that trip to Africa, I had a camcorder. I had my mother's camcorder. I'm not that old, so just want to throw that out there. Had a camcorder, was recording, kind of like documenting it. I was like, okay, that's cool. I think when I came back, I bought a camera and I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna capture stuff. Later on in the year, the young adults at church were doing something, and the person that's supposed to film it like fell through. And for whatever reason, I was like, you know, I think I could figure that out. So, that was one thing. And I was like, okay, interesting, noted. Then, so I ended up filming, editing that. That was like done. I was like, wow, this really came together. Like, I was able to film it, edit it, like add tweaks to it. Like, I was able to do some stuff. I was like, this is interesting. That started to grow an interest and started to sit on YouTube all night watching videos, how to do it, how to perfect it. Then we were doing another project. Hey, I think we should do like if we could do some pictures of dancers or whatever, da da da. And I was like, I think I could figure that out. And so I started to take pictures. I started to take these photos that were just like dynamic. And I was like, wow, that's another thing. And then start to research that and start to learn that. I think one of the main gifts that God has given me is my voice, for so many reasons, but my singing voice specifically. And before this, I mean, I definitely sung when I was younger, like in a youth choir or whatever, and people knew I could sing, but I wasn't singing. I wasn't singing. And so I think during this time, God started to develop my voice. And it wasn't just like, oh, she can sing. It was like the anointing. It was the worship. It was the everything else that kind of came along with it. And so it started, those things, I think at one point I started to realize, like, hold up. Now, late last year, I didn't know I could do any of these things. And now already under my belt, I have film, photography, and music. From not having anything, now I have these things. I think I need to do a whole other video too about this other. Then I was able to get an opportunity being a media intern at this PR firm. I was like the media intern. It wasn't like I was under someone. I was the media intern. And so that caused me to have to write press releases. It caused me to have to make websites. I had to design websites. And I'm like, I remember the first time they asked, it was like, yeah, can you design a website for this thing that we're trying to do? And I was like, I could figure it out possibly, like how to do it. And was able to figure it out and not only figure it out, but be able to excel at it. And so I just started to see myself, or see God show me all these different things, all of these different creative things that God had in me, and they were sustainable things. They were things that I could create my own for myself on the side, whether I had a job or not. And like, I just was finding it fascinating that God was unveiling all of these things to me. He was answering my prayer, and he used creativity and used these things that I like to draw me to him, because all of this work that I was doing was for him. Even so much that at the PR firm that I was working at, like, they were doing work for like pastors and all these things, these people in Harlem, and I was like, how else would I have gotten here other than God opening a door for this opportunity? No, it was just kind of blowing my mind. And again, this is how Becoming Creative came together. We are always in a state of becoming. And when I heard that, it clicked in my head, because I think for a long time I had, especially in this all in the same time period of my life, I was looking at everyone else that I had grown up with. I was looking at everyone else in my age group and comparing myself, and like, dang, I don't have a career like that. I'm not getting money like that. I didn't finish school. Like, that's a huge thing that like people look at and judge you on, and I didn't do any of those things. And so at the time I was very like self-conscious and very like, my God, like I must be whack because I'm not doing anything that these other people are doing. And so when I heard that quote, I said, wow, okay, I can hold on to that, because God is preparing me to do what he wants me to do. God is setting me up. And out of that, out of the film, the photography, the websites, then all of these things, once I started with that, I kind of felt like, okay, yeah, I definitely became creative. And it's like, it was only because God began to show me that I was, out of me thinking I was nothing else other than basketball. I was nothing else other than a has-been athlete. He gave me identity. He gave me who I am. Like, he started to show me my essence. Like, that whole, he knew me in the womb, and like, he knows all of it. And he's helped me learn to love every quirk, every thing that makes me me, that even makes me creative, the way I see and the way I'm able to position things and lay things out, is all because of God. It's all because God has taught me that. He's been my ultimate teacher in this whole process. And so yeah, that's the kind of the beginnings of what becoming creative means for me. And the whole point of this is just to open up space for people to talk about how they became what and who they are. What has led you to become who you are? For me, it's God. God is the core. God is always going to be the core. And I think for all of us, honestly, whom we become, God has to be the core of that. Like, a lot of people are successful on their own strength, right? But there's always something missing from it, or they're always striving for something that they don't see, they don't know. And I think the one thing that's missing from a lot of people's lives is God. Understanding that we're not doing this, we're not out here living for our own selves. We have a purpose. God has a purpose for us, and ultimately we need that has to be accomplished. That will and that plan has to be accomplished. And so yeah, becoming creative is an interesting space, and but it's a fruitful space because you're able to gain wisdom on who you are, who God has called you to be, and how to get to that. And so I'm hoping that this space can be open for a lot of people to talk about how do I learn where I'm gifted at? How do I find peace in my mind? How do I find love? How do I navigate in this culture? All of that is what this podcast will be about. And I'm grateful that I'll be able to invite other folk kind of to talk about their process and their, how they got to where they are in Christ, how they got to where they are in their careers, even how did we get here? Because that's a question I have. How did we get here? And while yes, the Bible definitely has foretold us that we would be here as a world, and this whole world's gonna pass away. How did we get here though? People's minds and people's ideas, whatever. Either way, I want this to be a space for all of us to kind of talk and gain some valuable points and valuable advice to kind of go forward. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me for the first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys found this of some value, some benefit to your day. And then I also have some Becoming Creative diaries coming to you guys really soon, where we kind of just hit on some small topics real quick, some things in the culture, some things I see on social media that I have thoughts on. And so yeah, thank you guys for joining me. I love you guys. Jesus loves y'all, and keep becoming. See you guys in the next video.